Welcome to Cosmic Top Secret Talks. I want to thank you for tuning into this transmission, keeping me in your God thoughts, and welcoming me into your universe. Okay, friends and family, today, as promised, I'm going to go into the 3 easy steps of becoming immortal. It is true, you too can become immortal with 3 easy steps. And as I spoke about on the last transmission, immortality does not mean that the body lives forever. Generally, when we speak of immortality in Western culture, the thought is that, the body that you're in, along with your consciousness, will remain, last forever and ever and ever through some specific practice. And that this physical vessel that you currently inhabit will not perish. That was not the true intention of immortality in prehistory, when there was a matriarchal society. When patriarchal society began to take over, and then there was the rise of what we know now as religion, meaning Hinduism, meaning Taoism, meaning Buddhism, because those were the 3 major religions who spoke at length and taught at length about immortality. But they were speaking about physical immortality and not spiritual immortality. Or I should say, the mortality of the consciousness, the immortality of consciousness, yes. Because see, Taoism specifically, and also many Hindu practices, of which Taoism came out of, they are very male-focused. Why were they male-focused? Actually, if you look, for all of you scholars and practitioners out there, do you of the healing arts, creative healing arts, do you not find it interesting that the vast majority of these quote-unquote ancient texts are very male-centered and very male-focused, and that all of the practices that are focused on primarily deal with the male reaching immortality, such as semen retention, such as having sex with very young girls in order to use the girl's energy to siphon the energy of young girls so that the older man will will take that energy into his being and elongate his life. These were many of the practices, or I should say, these were a couple of the many practices that were used to achieve immortality. But they all focused on the male, using the woman, mind you, the energy of the woman to become immortal. But none of them focused on how women could become immortal. Why? Because by nature, the feminine species has an inherent connection with the physical world, with the spiritual world, with the spiritual realm. So we only need to do a few practices and not anything strenuous. We don't need to siphon energy from the male species in order to achieve these goals, these spiritual goals. The feminine species has what they need innate in them in order to achieve these spiritual goals. Just by being feminine naturally, by being allowed to fully lean into our natural creative prowess, our natural creative energy. But the male species did not have access to these energies by de facto of, having a missing chromosome, if we're just going to be honest here. And I feel like I have to give a caveat on all of these transmissions to say that I have nothing personal against the male human species. I'm just speaking biological facts that state that the male species is a degenerate form of the female species, of the feminine gender. And the woman that we know today, what we call the female and the woman, is also a degenerated being due to environment, due to trauma, due to diet, that the original feminine gender was much more androgynous, as seen as though the feminine gender has a complete set of chromosomes. So the feminine is a combination of both masculine and feminine, but equally balanced. What we currently view as male and female are degenerate forms of the primary primitive androgynous true feminine species, or true human species, because originally humanity was nothing but female. And again, that female encompasses both feminine with the fee and male. You cannot get it's like there's a de-learning process that has to take place when you come into when you're looking to expand your thought process dealing with your spirituality. And Because in seeking to level yourself up spiritually, you have to erase these pre-programmed notions, because everything was flipped on its head in order to have more control over the degenerate male and degenerate female species. But you can think of how absurd it would be, as the Bible says, as the Christian Bible says, that a woman was birthed from the rib of a man. Biologically, that is impossible. Not even in the let's just say, okay, that's an analogy. Let's just not, even though many people take that shit at face value and they really believe in fairy tales that a woman could come from a rib of a man when they have never ever in their entire lives been privy to a birth by a male on this planet. But yet and still, they have been programmed, because they're such in a degenerate state and their nutrition levels are thrown off so that they can't think properly. Thus, they believe fairy tales that women could come from men. So there has to be a flip in our thinking. And I'm saying all this to say, I'm saying this, I'm coming to a point in that leveling up spiritually and becoming immortal and stepping into your spiritual truth, so to speak, or your spiritual greatness, and winning the game is not a difficult task. The religions make it seem like a difficult task. And they make it seem like a difficult task because the males who created these religions were trying to do their damnedest to erase everything feminine, because with femininity comes naturalness, and there's no need to involve yourself into all of these strict practices, like the many of the cleansing practices that are practiced by the yogis. They do all types of crazy shit to their body in order to achieve immortality. They mutilate themselves. They do things like stand in one position with one hand in the air for months or years on end. They torture themselves. They mutilate themselves. They become masochists and sadists, because those who reach a certain level of these teachings and then begin to teach others become sadists in order to achieve mortality when it is not necessary. But the male species felt it was more necessary for them, because it is harder for the male to naturally tap into and break through into these spiritual realms and extend consciousness. That being said, there are still easier ways to do this, even as a male, without torturing yourself, without putting yourself through trauma, and without traumatizing others, which every single guru of the past has done. If you were to search now in Google, if you were to search guru abuse, Just about every notable guru has been found to have been abusive to their students and to their followers, whether it be physical abuse, whether it be emotional abuse, or whether it be sexual abuse. I challenge you, dear listener, to send me the name of one notable guru who has not been found to be abusive in some way and thinks that it is proper to teach students by traumatizing them, by becoming a sadist, by mutilating themselves, or by torturing themselves in order to bring out their greatest self. That is not necessary. That is a very male notion of how to achieve a greater spirituality. Because see, the male psyche looks toward domination and violence in order to achieve its goals. The feminine psyche more naturally looks towards harmonization and integration to achieve its goals. And once the male understands this, there can be a reprogramming of the psyche, but there has to be an understanding that everything that the male is taught to think of as being masculine is not serving them and is actually killing them, making them miserable, and sending them to their own internal hell. Okay, becoming immortal in 3 easy steps. Step 1, learn to control your breath. Learn to control your breath. The breath is life. The more you learn to control your breath, the more you will naturally be able to control your thoughts. Why is controlling your thoughts important? Because thoughts turn into things. Thoughts become physical matter. What you think is what you manifest. If you die if you pass this by, once this body breaks down, no longer cease to exist, and your soul, that little spark of soul that has been projected into your body, once it leaves the body and there's nothing left but your consciousness, if you think that you're going to hell because you didn't do X, Y, Z in this particular lifetime, in this particular existence, you're going to reincarnate back into a hellish situation on another variation of this earth. You will not go to a physical destination of a fiery hell with flames looking up, with demons dancing around and all of that shit, because that doesn't exist. And if it does, where is it located? Show me where it's located. But in the mind. So yes, there are different hell. There are hells that exist because we create our own personal hell. Whatever it is that you fear the most becomes your hell. But there is no one destination, like say a city, for example, New York City, that has a GPS locator that you can, and maps that you can take to go to this destination called New York. There is no place named hell. One hell that you can go to. It does not exist. It exists only in your imagination, and it only exists in your imagination as a fire with dancing demons and burning forever because you read it in a book that was written by men who were afraid not only of their lack of connection to the spiritual realms, but also afraid of losing power, so that they had to create fear in the minds of the degenerate male and the degenerate female in order for control. And then they use these degenerate males and females' energy for their immortality. That's the other way that you can obtain different variations of immortality, like we talked about, by sucking the energy of others. You can become a vampire. And so those males who created and bastardized the original teachings that were allegories, but then put them in these texts as if they were real stories, as if they were physical realities, and taught them to you as such to create these hierarchies in the world, have done so that they can create food. They live off your fear. They thrive off of your fear. And fear is what is created when you have this concept of a hell in your mind that you could burn forever. Even the thought of a heaven is a fear-based ideal. No one can tell me their idea of what heaven will be when they die, if they think that they're a good of enough person, right, to go to heaven. The next time you're around someone who identifies as a Christian or even as a Muslim or whatever religion, Judaism, ask them what heaven is like, what their days will be like in heaven. What is their day-to-day life in heaven? They're going to draw a blank on you because they don't fucking know. People spend 10 times more time thinking about hell than they do heaven, which is ironic because you claim you want to go to heaven, but you rarely think about that shit. You always thinking about staying out of hell. But also, this heaven, where is heaven located? It does not exist as a physical place. Heaven only exists in your mind. But guess what? The vast majority of so-called religious people who die in the physical reality, they won't go to heaven because they ain't even spent their life thinking about that shit. Whatever you're thinking about when you pass away from this realm is what your next reality, your next incarnation will create for you. And since there's so much time spent on Satan, battling Satan, defeating Satan, staying out of hell, not burning in them fires, ain't nobody thinking about no heaven. They not thinking about going chilling with a blonde-eyed, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus and some unthinkable, faceless, God, and no mother, going through a pearly gates with all males, by the way, too, all male angels. So it's like literally, is heaven supposed to be a place just populated by males? So heaven is a gay club, I guess. Okay. But I digress. Let's go back to the breath. Step 1, control your breath. You get so many vital minerals through the breath. You get so much information through the breath. So if you're breathing shallowly, you're getting limited information. And also, if you're breathing shallowly, you aren't properly cleansing the body from the toxins, because most of the toxins are expelled through the skin, which is the biggest organ. So it's expelled through sweating, and it's expelled through the breath, via the lungs. But since most don't breathe properly, they don't sweat properly. Most of us try not to sweat. So already that's a problem. They try not to sweat, so you're holding in more toxins. And then also there's no, the breath isn't being properly maintained, and we're not breathing properly from the belly. We're not taking complete breaths. So the toxins do not leave the body. And thus, it is easier for a disease to take hold in the body. Shallow breaths and incomplete breathing is the root of all lung diseases. If we're breathing properly, you build up enough fire in the body, and that fire, that heat, burns up any remnants of any little bullshit that can make us sick, right? That's that real fire that they talk about in the Bible. That is the true fire that you need in your body. A cold body and a damp body is a sick body and will soon perish. And before it perishes, it will live miserably. It will hold many debilitating illnesses. And your quality of life is very poor. So number one, becoming immortal is controlling that breath, focusing on that breath, listening to yourself breathe, following the breath as it comes in the nostrils, into the lungs, down into your belly, and you're taking a complete breath. You're breathing in slowly, and your belly is expanding. And then you're holding it for a little bit, and then you're exhaling slowly, slightly pulling in that belly until it is completely empty. And then you're repeating that for however long you can repeat that. And they call that a full yogic breath. But it's really just natural breathing, taking complete breaths in, completely filling up your lungs and your abdomen, and taking full exhales out, completely emptying the body of all of the air. If you could do that for just 5 minutes out of the day, you're going to notice a complete difference in the clarity of your thought and how you feel, your mobility. Your energy levels will change. And then once you get really good and have been patient with yourself with the complete breath, then you can level up into some retained breaths and do some rhythmic breathing. You're going to breathe in for 4 seconds. You're going to hold that for 4 seconds. And you're going to exhale for 4 seconds. And then you're going to hold that for 4 more seconds. If you can do that, just starting for 3 minutes out of the day, again, your energy level is going to change. Clarity of your thought is going to change. Your mood will change. You become calmer. You become more patient. Most importantly, with yourself. Becoming kinder to yourself. Becoming more compassionate to yourself. Number 2, once you learn to breathe properly, then you're going to learn to listen. So what were you doing for those 10, 15 seconds when I paused? Were you thinking? Talking in your head to yourself? Or were you listening, waiting for what I was going to say next? And just listening to the environment, listening to the silence of me not speaking, and also listening to the surroundings of your environment. Listening to the sound of the appliances in your home, the cars going by outside, the birds in the trees, your neighbors talking, sound of the television or the radio or your computer. Sound of airplane going past. The sound of a ceiling fan turning. Sound of a teapot boiling on the stove. Even tapping into the smells, the scents. Smell of whatever is cooking in your home. Smell of incense that you may have burned. Smell of the laundry that you did yesterday. You may have some house plants. What smell do they give off? You listen close enough, you may even hear your plants trying to communicate with you. You may hear the birds trying to communicate with you. Listening is the first step in developing an ironclad focus and concentration. And you know that you're listening properly when you're not talking. Because guess what? You can't listen and talk at the same time, can you? It's impossible. And it's not going to be easy at first. But just start off with 2 minutes. Set your timer for 2 minutes and try to go 2 minutes without talking to yourself in your head. Try to go just 2 minutes with just listening. And then each time a thought does come into your head, don't beat yourself up. Don't say, oh shit, I'm talking to myself again. Just observe it. Observe the thought. Don't answer the voice. Listen to it and then let it go by. Let it pass by like a cloud. Let's try it right now. Let's try just listening for 2 minutes. And again, when a thought comes into your head, or if you begin to talk to yourself, just stop and observe it and watch it go by and go back to listening. So listening is step 2. Step 3 is when you bring all of those components together. You bring the component of the controlled breath. Then you bring the component of the ironclad concentration and focus with the listening. And then you're going to develop a practice which is called Yoga Nidra. The first practice that we discussed with the breath retaining, that's pranayama. The second practice that we talked about with the listening, that's called Nada Yoga, which means, of course, nada means no, nothing, no sound. And eventually I didn't go into depth on that, but on some future talks, we'll go into some more listening exercises. We'll play with Nada Yoga just to start getting people ready and prepped for their journey. But you will find that the deeper you get into listening, that's when you begin to start hearing through other realms. That's when you pick up very subtle messages from other realms, other dimensions, other entities. And that's when the fun really starts. And again, all these realms and dimensions or entities are inside of you, because you are the universe. And The further along in your listening practice that you go, you're going to turn that listening to the outward environment. You're going to turn that attention inward and begin to listen internally. To all the planets inside of you, to all the galaxies within you. You're going to start to listen. You're going to start to pick up on these transmissions. You have all the antennas that you need for this communication. So we're going to get deeper into that in the future. But let's go on to step 3, which is the Yoga Nidra, the sleepless sleep. This is what immortality is. The sleepless sleep, or I should say, this is the entryway, this is the gateway to immortality, the sleepless sleep. What is a sleepless sleep? It is control of the consciousness. Your consciousness, or what most would call the mind, is a completely separate entity from the physical body. The physical body needs rest because it is a physical machine and it needs maintenance. The best maintenance you can do for the physical body, besides giving it its proper diet, which includes all of the minerals that your body needs to maintain its fire and its electricity in order to communicate between all different cells within your body, and also to hydrate it properly so that the electricity can conduct itself properly with the water that we are also 70% made out of. So besides the diet and getting proper mineral nutrition in the body, the other big thing we do for maintenance is sleep. When we sleep, we heal. We heal ourselves. And as I spoke about on the previous transmission, there's something that we can look to traditional Chinese medicine for that they have developed, which is called the body organ clock. You could go look that up right now. The body organ clock it runs off of 2 hours at a time, and each organ takes 2 hours to cleanse itself. This is also one of the beauties of fasting, and also the benefits of fasting, because the body, whatever you put in your body, it has to come out. And whatever you put in your body, it needs to be processed. And so that takes work. And whatever energy is going towards processing what you have ingested into your body, that is taking time away from doing maintenance that it is regularly scheduled to do. So fasting gives our body a break in order to be able to do its maintenance a lot easier and quicker than it could do without having to also use some of that energy in order to process what we put in our body, what we call food. But so, the sleepless sleep, Yoga Nidra. As I said, the mind and the body are separate. You can develop a practice to relax your body to the state to to where you can put your body to sleep, which is nothing but sleep is nothing but deep, deep relaxation. That is all that sleep is. So in a sense, the true sleep is not where we lose consciousness and fall into the void of a dream. True sleep is just deep relaxation. And the yogi knows that they do not have to have their consciousness fall into a void or go astral traveling in order to sleep. You can keep your mind and your consciousness awake in this reality and let your body go to sleep. This is true meaning of, quote unquote, sleeping with one eye open. Because what you think that one eye is, that's your third eye. That's why a real yogi, you could never sneak up on them. You could never sneak up on a real yogi. Because their consciousness is always present. They are always in the present moment. That is immortality. Always being present. Those that allow their consciousness to sleep with the body or to fall into the void with the body, they are not present. They are either traveling to some, thoughts or events from the past in a dream, or dreaming about some future event or premonition, or, dreaming about something that generally most people dream about stuff they've done during the day, But they're anywhere but in the present moment. And the present is where the magic happens. So that's where you want to remain. The present is where immortality lives. And I'm not going to go into, in this transmission, explaining, or I should say, I've already explained it, but I'm not going to go into the technique heavily. I have a guided yoga nidra video that you can, for those of you listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcasts, iHeartRadio, you can go to I Am Sunbody TV and look for the advanced yoga nidra video. I did the work for you guys to make the first part of the work. The rest of it you have to do yourselves. But I did part of the work for you and made a guided yoga nidra recording that all you have to do is follow the instructions. All you have to do is listen in order to do this activity. And once you listen to, and in this listening, all I'm doing is I'm aiding you and guiding you into putting your body into a deep, deep state of relaxation. But at the same time, I'm also using a practice to keep the consciousness awake in this present moment. And the more you practice this, eventually you will be able to stay present. You'll still be able to hear everything in your environment. And when you get really good at it, you'll even be able to open your eyes and see, and your body will still be asleep, but your mind will be present. And all of these little 3 steps are the practice that you need in order to, at the moment of death, maintain your consciousness in the present moment. Your consciousness will not fall into the void, so to speak, and go into a dream. And whatever that dream is that your consciousness will fall into, that is your next incarnation. So whatever you're conceiving of at that moment that your body dies, whatever you're thinking about, whatever you're focused on, whatever you're listening to, that is the next realm you will go to. So this yoga nidra practice. Oh, and also, not only will you go to that realm, but you'll be dumb when you go there again. When you're born again, so to speak, you will come back with the baby brain. You will lose all the knowledge that you spent. You spent 80 to 100 years, or some of us, of course, die much sooner. But let's just say 50 to 100 years. Gathering all of this knowledge, all of this wisdom in this incarnation, just to turn right back around in the next one and have to start this shit all over again. You really want to learn to count again? You want to have to learn to add 2 plus 2? You really want to have to learn how to do your multiplication tables all over again? You want to have to learn how to tie your shoes all over again? How to speak English, French, Arabic, Russian, Czech, Spanish. Do you want to have to learn about relationships all over again? Do you want to have to learn how to build self-confidence again? Build self-compassion, how to forgive yourself, how to love. You can take it all with you. And that's the other lie of this Western reality. The other game, the trick that we fell for, you can't take it with you. No, baby, yes, you can. You can take it with you. Because the money part is not the important part of taking it with you. That's not what they mean. Because once you have the knowledge and the wisdom, you're going to always be rich. You're going to make the money. You're going to attract the money. But you need something to attract it with. You need the knowledge. And yes, you can take that with you. You can remain present. You can have an unbreakable continuation of your consciousness going into the next life. I want to thank you for tuning in to Cosmic Secret Talks. Really thank you for tuning into this transmission, keeping me in your God thoughts, and welcoming me into your universe.